Hello, this is Aaron Maller from Parallax team, and this video is going to go over some of the changes and additions that we've made to the healthcare equipment content library at Parallax team. To start, a number of the families in the original healthcare library were still face-based, as that was the way we were primarily building content when I first started Parallax team. A number of those families have now been converted to completely unhosted, the way we prefer to have all of our new families built. Notably, the curtain tracks are now unhosted, which means they're not actually fixed to the ceiling according to Revit, but this makes them more amenable to being model grouped inside patient rooms, triage areas, and things like that. That change has also been made to other families throughout the healthcare library where we did find that they were face-based or had an association that we didn't want to maintain going forward. Notably, we also now have a starter head wall that is an unhosted family as well, and it uses components of MedGas and the Parallax Electrical and Telecom library, which are all completely unhosted. This makes building head walls and then including them in patient rooms that are model grouped a lot easier. We've also added a large number of components into the library. As you may recall, the healthcare equipment library is largely static in nature because they are representative of specific manufacturers. Sometimes we even start with manufacturers' families and we add in the rigs and the parameters that we want for the Parallax library. That means that we have a large backlog of things that are waiting to get added to the library, and we've knocked out about 150 new families that have now been added in since the last time the healthcare equipment library was shipped. We still have about 200 new families that are waiting to be added in to the healthcare equipment library, and we'll be working to get those in the future. Because this is a more static library and a lot of the components are added using some manufacturer basis families when we convert them, that has also meant that historically the healthcare library has had a large number of materials and material assets that needed to be cleaned up. That was done in this pass of the library. So now all of the equipment is using the proper Parallax materials, and all of the Parallax materials in this library now also have render assets assigned to them. That means that if you were to take this library now and go into Enscape or Twinmotion, you'll see that the equipment looks a lot better than it used to look. We've used some standard colors that don't always 100% represent the particular manufacturer in question, but we think the library now looks great and represents itself pretty well when you go in to do some visualization. In addition, because we sometimes start with the basis of design manufacturer's components, there were still a large number of junk parameters or junk data that needed to be cleaned up inside all of these families. We have gone through now and we've properly filled in the description parameters for what all of the components are, and we've also stripped out a lot of additional parameters that do not need to be in the components. We haven't been 100% thorough in getting through every single family, so there may still be one or two extra erroneous parameters that are no longer in use, but we will try to clean up more of those as we're working in the future. Another part of this round of changes is that we did want to re-strategize and clean up the taxonomy or the naming standards and the organization of the library. Because of that, if you compare the families that you've downloaded in this new build to the previous library that you have, you will see that not every single family is named the exact same thing. That's because we have been re-strategizing what the subgroups are of the healthcare library, such as transport for moving patients around, whether things are subfamilies, which we're now calling parts in the prefix of the name, whether or not they are boom assemblies versus boom parts, if they are scanners, if they are medical gases, if they are supplies, if they are carts, and so on. So the names of a lot of the families have changed, and that may be frustrating, but there isn't any functional difference in a lot of the families in terms of if you still use the old ones, that will be okay as well. Also, in Revit 2022, medical equipment became a category, so a large number of the components have now made the move to being medical equipment category instead of generic models or specialty equipment. There is still a portion of the library that is specialty equipment, and there is still a portion of the library that is generic models, and some of that has to do with we are still working through some of the semantic debates surrounding what constitutes a piece of medical equipment and what constitutes a piece of specialty equipment, especially when you start talking about things like storage carts and stools. So you now have a compilation of some specialty equipment, some medical equipment, and some generic models. But on the whole, the library is much improved, and we'll continue to make updates to it in the future after we ship this one out. So we hope you enjoy it, and thanks for watching.